Mr. Speaker.
I call Andrew Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to be speaking on the Waitangi National Trust Board Amendment Bill. But before I do so, I just want to acknowledge Mr. Peter Peroni as the representative of iwi family on the board and also as chair, and also to pass on my condolences to Mr. Penny Hanari, and of course in his time of need and the great contribution that his father made towards the trust. As New Zealanders, we all recognise the importance of Waitangi, given its historical significance and because it's embedded in our national heritage. It is a site where our bicultural nationhood actually began, and its heritage status is actually unquestioned. For me personally, it also is a place of great meaning. The Baileys have farmed alongside Waitangi Trust land for many, many years, and in fact, my brother and sister-in-law currently lease some of the trust land where you often see my brother's Angus heifers grazing. As such, I've been a regular visitor to Waitangi over many, many years. There is nothing like the hot summers of the north and the colours of the sea and the harbour. When you look across the harbour to think of this strange, quaint place of Russell, and to think back in the early 1840s how it was described as a den of inequity of the Pacific, it's a hard thing to envisage. Named after British aristocracy, the charm of the settlement today is a far cry from that infamy. The local population was attracted to a mixture of deserters from ships, escaped convicts from Botany Bay in Australia, brothels, grog sellers, whalers and traders, all growing fat on all the incomers to that area. Nowadays, there's little hint of that sordid past. What I like is how the Waitangi Trust Board, or Trust, actually defines Waitangi. And I quote, "It is a place for all New Zealanders, a place of accord for all peoples, a place standing central to our history as a nation and at the centre of growth of our nation." The Trust vision for Waitangi for 2020 is to be a place of relevance to all New Zealanders, to be New Zealand's most important historical place, to be an important tourism destination, and to operate in a sustainable long-term organisation, and to be a model for bicultural development. After the signing of the treaty in 1840, the Busby family continued to own the land and property, and the house fell into disrepair. It wasn't until 1832 when the Governor-General, Lord Bledisloe and his wife, visited the Bay of Islands and agreed to acquire the 1,000 acres plus the house with a view to gifting it to the nation. This historic spot, the treaty house on that land, was formally handed over to New Zealand on 6th of February 1934, commencing a tradition of what's now known, obviously, as Waitangi Day. The deed of the Waitangi National Trust, drawn up in 1932, sets out the objectives for the treaty grounds. The first board comprised the Bledisloes as the donors, the Prime Minister, ministers, representatives from certain Māori families, and representatives from the Busby, Williams and Wakefield families. The latter family, the Wakefield, I've got to say I'm related to through my mother's family. The board today continues to include descendants from all the families involved those 83 years ago. But with the passage of time, it's obviously now important to look at how the structure of that trust is established and to set it on a new course that is modernised and relevant to its current purpose. The trust is currently self-funded and carries out the work of maintaining the treaty grounds without calling on the cost to the people of New Zealand. The original Act, the Waitangi National Trust Board Act of 1932, has been examined and detailed by the Māori Affairs Select Committee, which unanimously recommends it should be passed with the listed amendments. This government seeks to strengthen the financial viability and governance structure of the Trust. And so it is really with the purpose that all New Zealanders and visitors alike continue to benefit from this historical site. And there is nothing better than to be on Waitangi at dawn for the service or to watch the changing of the guard and the raising of the flag on those hallowed grounds. This amendment bill addresses the representation on the Trust. At present, the board has two sets of representatives, one being ex officio members, being the Prime Minister, Ministers of Conservation and Māori Affairs, as well as the Governor-General, and the second group being the representatives of the families of the Pākehā and Māori individuals who were prominent in New Zealand's colonial past. In the case of the second group, there's obviously a current disparity between the representatives for the Pākehā families, one for each, and the representative for the Māori families, being one member only. This committee's deliberations recommend that each of the four Māori families have their own representatives. Whilst this will increase the number on the Trust Board, it is a logical outcome. The other step change in this bill concerns the ex officio members, namely the removal of the Governor-General and Ministers from the position on the board. If the Governor-General so wishes to become an honorary patron of the Trust, and thirdly, forming a group of Crown representatives to continue to maintain the communication and sharing of information with the board. This group is going to consist of the Prime Minister, the Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage, and the Minister of Māori Affairs. Two additional MPs are going to be appointed, one from government and one from the opposition. The removal of the Governor-General and the ministers from the ex officio positions clarifies their roles and removes any ambiguity over their constitutional role versus their roles as trustees. So a clear separation between the government and the board will therefore exist, while at the same time ensuring that positive work continues to exist on that board. Consideration has also been given to the maximum term of board members, and they will be limited to 9 years, being 3 terms of 3. At the moment, there is no such constraint, and there is a transitional measure which allows any person currently getting close to a 9-year term to roll that over for an initial 3-year term. That will help in a transitional sense to ensure ongoing representation during this period of change. I also just want to highlight the fact that this government is absolutely focused on settling grievances. Under the Honourable Chris Finlayson, we have signed 46 deeds of settlement since 2008. And as at February this year, 72 deeds of settlement have been signed and 43 of these have been passed into legislation. These represent over 2/3 of the land area of New Zealand and nearly half of all the settlements that we expect to settle. And of course, we've set ourselves a target that by 2017, that all willing and able iwi will have in place deeds of settlement. This government places much importance on settling grievances, and also what we're doing with this bill is putting in place a modern framework which will help to continue that process. I want to particularly acknowledge the work of the Māori Affairs Select Committee and also the Minister in supporting this bill.